While some might say it's easy to follow the crowd, don't rock the boat, or to stay in your lane, there are some who seemingly refuse to bow to the notion on a matter of pride or principle. Today's guest, Expel, is an example of a man who thrives on being his own man, a content creator on his terms, his way, by his rules. Why follow when you can lead? Why not shake up the status quo? Why not take the next lane and make it your own? In the YouTube world where many are quickly forgotten, to be able to strive, forge, and conquer have given Expel not only a fantastic brand motto, but also longevity and a reputation that many could only dream of. My name is Minges, and if you enjoyed the conversation, please be sure to like, comment below, and subscribe so you never miss another episode. And if you'd like to support the podcast further in exchange for extra videos, our members-only exclusive content can be found on our Patreon and will be linked in the description below. Expel, welcome to Unfiltered. It's been quite a journey for you so far in your career.
Hey, thank you. My gosh, what an intro. Holy moly. I don't even think I could have come up with all that stuff. Good gracious, brother.
It was a nice couple of minutes for me to type all that up, but I just wanted to talk to you about some of the things that make you such a unique creator, because I've been following you personally since 2020. I think after J God, you were the first videos recommended to me on YouTube, and I've been following you ever since. And dude, it's been a journey.
Well, shoot, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a crazy 5 years. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, at least with Warzone. I mean, I started before that, but Warzone, like, went from getting 200 views a video to all of a sudden just boom, it exploded. So it's been wild. And I know that everybody started getting recommended my stuff after like one spectating a cheater video, and then everything started clicking. I was like, what the hell is going on?
You started a long time ago, but it seems like, I mean, you've been wanting to be a content creator for even longer than how old your channel is. Is that correct?
Yeah, I technically started making videos with Call of Duty Black Ops 1. I was on PS3, so you could save clips on PS3 or go into theater mode and record it and then send that to a flash drive. I would take that, plug it into my very bad computer. Thank God my dad was nice and wanted to build me something, but I was using a Windows Movie Maker, and I'd plug it into Windows Movie Maker. I'd throw some music behind it and immediately get muted on YouTube because it was copyrighted music and I didn't understand it. So long story short, that channel disappeared. It gone, like never coming back. But after that, I went through multiple different channels: Psycho Gaming HD, Insinus, which ironically meant crazy in Latin. I don't know why I didn't mean insane, but that's a whole different thing. And then I ended up with Expel after a long day with a thesaurus trying to find something that fit me. That is not a lie. I wanted something easy to remember, short, and like the amount of letters, and it just kind of stuck. So in 2014, I made this channel, I think in like July of 2014, and started making, I think, Advanced Warfare.
It was Advanced Warfare.
That was my... Yeah. So I started with Advanced Warfare. Technically speaking, I think I actually uploaded like one singular Minecraft video before that, but we don't have to talk about it. That's a whole different, that's a different beast.
I'm sure there's a few early ones that you've unlisted. The ones I saw was PS3. There was no cam, and we could hear you talking and moving around like it was a live stream. You were saying things like, "Hang on, guys, let me text my brother," and it was kind of like just random, whatever you felt like saying at the time.
Yeah, it was definitely always something I had wanted. I watched people make these videos back in like Call of Duty 4, and I always thought it was cool. I started watching people making montages, which is how I started with like the whole thing in the first place. It was literally like random tomahawk montages at the beginning of S&D matches. So I always liked doing that, and I didn't even realize that you could make money off of it. I just kind of like, that was my creative outlet for a long time because I just liked it. And then I heard about like people making money from machinima. I forget what those things were called, but you had to like sign. I signed with Full Screen when I first had this channel. And basically how it would work is they take 40% of what you made after the cut from YouTube. Oh, so I was like, hey, if this is how you got to make money in this, I'm going to do it. So I started there. But yeah, I had always wanted to just do what I saw other people doing, but kind of do it myself. my dad was very supportive with like, you know, I guess the way that everybody was taught growing up is like, you are your special butterfly, you know, and that's a whole other discussion. But I took that very literally, and I wanted to make sure that I was my own special butterfly and just put myself out there. And I don't know how well that worked out, but it was always going to be, videos were going to be made, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Is like, I was always going to fall into this in some way. Even if it wasn't my job, I was always going to make videos. And I liked and before streaming, I was never really into streaming, but even before that, I just liked the idea of having a conversation, putting yourself out there, and just like talking to random people.
That's really cool that your dad was so supportive and your family like that growing up.
My dad was. My mom was not.
Okay.
So I grew up in a split household. So I do a week at my mom's, a week at my dad's, over and over and over until I was like 14, and I just ended up staying at my dad's after that. But he was pretty supportive about it. Obviously, he was still like, you need to make money. Yeah. So if you're not working or, you know, something like that, then you can't be in my house and doing it. Now, there was a whole other conversation sometime down the line where it was, I want to say I turned 18. I had a job. I was working in a factory at a mattress spring factory, basically, where I lived. And I was doing like heavy work. And then one day, like, I basically ended up at a point where I was either going to get fired over something had nothing to do with me. I was either going to get fired, or I was going to, like, that night, or I was going to get fired down the road because of, not to get into it, but, you know, DRUGS addict as a manager at the time was going crazy. And so I was just going to get fired no matter what. Yeah. So I just, like, the supervisor at the time had gone on something new, and I was going to get fired. So this conversation happened where I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to quit. And then I have saved up money. So I talked to my dad, and I have this conversation with him. I was like, I really want to pursue YouTube. Well, he says, okay, what I think you should do if you're not going to go to college is, by the time you're 21, if you don't make it, then you should go to college. That way you can at least have some sort of degree to where you'll be good. I always wanted to go into graphics design. I basically could have gotten a full ride to the college, like the state over where a lot of my like friends in school went, but it never really fit for me. So I made a deal with my dad that I would go back to college if it didn't work out. At the age of 21, something clicked with Blackout. Ironically, he's the one that told me to play Blackout for videos, but it's such a ride. It's so hard to like go back and think about all these little perfectly placed pieces that get you to where you are now.
And at the time, it's like you don't even know, right? Because
you're never going to realize it until way down the road. And now it's, I don't know, when was that? When was Blackout? I don't even know. May 2019 is when I went full time.
Wow. So I've got my notes here.
I got so lucky.
Yeah, I've got my notes here. Like in 2015, you hit 500 subs. In Jan 2016, 1,000 subs. And you were doing like thank you videos at the time and talking through and thanking everyone. And I was wondering, you know, at what stage you did go full time. You were doing, different games. You were doing Rocket League, Destiny, GTA, Minecraft, Pokemon, Roblox. And then, you were doing Call of Duty consistently across all the titles. And in 2018, you were doing the Blackout. And then like in February, Blackout content just took off. It was going from like a few hundred to thousands per video for you. And what happened in Blackout at that time? Because I wasn't playing. I missed that Call of Duty. But I know Blackout from people talking about it was a great game, tight-knit community, and people loved it.
Blackout was very interesting. Basically, like how I was able to go full time, and I think I've talked about this maybe like twice in the past, is how I was able to go full time, and ironically, kind of the exact reason I don't stream now. I was never really someone that liked streaming. It's just not my thing. One, I never had the internet for it. Biggest complaint of my whole life. I swear, I used to call at the ripe age of 14 the internet company and be like, hey, fix our stuff. It's down again. And my dad just gave up and he was like, here's the number. I'm not calling anymore. But I used to have issues like that, so I could never stream, so I always made a bunch of videos. But with Blackout, it was very weird because I hopped in and I was making videos, and I was like, I'm making a decent amount of money on these videos, but it's not like enough to go full time. My cost of living was very low, right out of like school, the area that I was in. I paid $600 for rent, just to be clear. It was like nothing back then. So I was like, man, I feel like I'm pushing towards it, but I'm so close and I just can't get there. I can't get to the point to where I go full time. And I had this conversation with another creator at the time who all of a sudden just went from not existing. Literally his channel was made 2 months before to all of a sudden he was streaming, he had viewers and all this other stuff. I had seen other people streaming in the space and I was like, it's not something I want to do. And then this guy told me, he was like, look, you've made a decent audience. They like you. You should try live streaming because that's how you're going to monetize enough to be able to go full time. And as much as I didn't like the idea of monetizing my audience, if I was going to like succeed, I had to do something like that. So my only option was to physically monetize my audience by live streaming. And so I was able to, have some videos that did well with like updates and meta loadouts or, the whole shebang. I had some videos do well and then I'd live stream and the live streams would go okay. And then one day I remember there were like 3 people that just one after another dropped large tips. And I was like, what the hell? What is going on? I think if you go back to my live streams, you might be able to actually find that moment. It is so deep. But that moment when it happened, I'm like on the stream. I don't have face cam or anything like that. And I'm literally like crying because I've got like $700 in one like 5-minute period. I'm like, I don't know what's happening. This is my rent for the month. I'm lost. I think in total, my bills at the time were like $1,200. So what I needed was a 3-month amount of money before I would basically quit my job. That was like my idea in my head. Because then I have a nice little amount saved. And the job that I had, they were perfectly fine with it. They knew everything going on and I was really excited about it. But that happened. And then the next time like I streamed, it was like challenges and people would tip me a lot. And it just like, it kept coming. And I was like, not sure what to do. But I remember at my job, they had a 3-week period where if you're a server, you don't need to work basically because they're doing renovations. And I was a server. I worked at a steakhouse basically. It was a family-owned business, but it was a steakhouse nonetheless. And so they do renovations 3 weeks out of the year. So during that 3-week period, I went balls to the wall, like straight up as hard as I could. I streamed every day. I posted a video every single day and I saved that nest egg that I needed. When that 3 weeks was over, I went back to work and I will say I'm one of those people where if my gut tells me something, like I don't know how many people get this, but I literally get a feeling in my stomach where I know something is either not right or the right thing to do would be this, that, or the other thing. And I always trust it because it's never been wrong. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's not wrong, So I get into work and I'm, doing my serving job and I call my dad and I have this conversation. I'm like, look, I think I'm going to quit my job because this doesn't feel right. I'm anxious as hell because I know that something is wrong here. And the next day went back into work and I put in my 2 weeks notice and went full time after that. But I got very lucky that I had a very tight knit community and they were so positive whenever it came to me wanting to do it full time. And they were so helpful. I mean, I will never be thankful enough, basically. And I always talk about my friend Pipe. He became my friend because, one, obviously he started out by being one of those people that gave me challenges, but he also just was really good at the game and nice and did not give a damn. This guy, I kid you not, he would give it to me like it was. He did not care. He was like, look, I don't care if you got 50,000 subscribers, 100,000 subscribers. It doesn't matter to me, brother. You screwed up that game, buddy. You got to do better. And I loved the not give a damn attitude. And he was just super down to earth. So the way that he became my friend was that. And he actually was one of the people that from the beginning was like, look, you got it. You can do it. Here's a challenge that I know you're going to complete, no issue. And just so that he could have a reason to help support me. So people like that, I mean, it wasn't even few and far between back then. Like people were very, very kind. And I got very lucky with a similar situation in Warzone when I streamed then. So I've gotten extremely lucky. That's what I'll say. That's what happened during Blackout. 99% of it, luck. 1%, me being like, all right, I'm going to dive in.
I had this luck conversation a little bit with Mr. Jowo when he was, nice enough to come on the podcast, and we kind of had this discussion where it's sort of like you kind of put yourself in a position to be lucky. So obviously you didn't just throw up a live stream and people started donating. You were doing years of videos and perfecting your craft and getting better at it and putting yourself out there to the community, being yourself. So people knew who you were. It's not like you were going on stream saying, all right, I'm going full time, give me money kind of thing. People knew
No, absolutely
what you were
not.
about.
No.
So, but one thing I want to ask, you mentioned you had that sort of, that time limit. You had that 3 years by 21, I've got to do this. Do you think having that sort of that ceiling or that time frame on you, that it pushed you a bit more to make things happen and do things like streaming, which you might normally not would have considered?
Well, I actually never even thought about the time limit. Like, not a single moment throughout that time. I don't know what was going on in my head, but at no point, and I only realized this after I went, literally like the second day of me being full-time content creation. Okay. I realized what my dad said, and I was like, holy shit, I did it. Like, that was what happened. But the whole time, I was just trying. I mean, I had actually, technically speaking, I had given up right before Blackout. The reason I said earlier that my dad recommended that I play Blackout and stream that and make content on that is because I had given up. I was just being a server. I was making, $30,000 a year at a nice steak restaurant, which was, way, obviously it's very different now, but it was way more than I needed at the time to be successful in life where I lived. So I was happy doing what I was doing. And my dad was like, hey, I think you'll like this. And so I got pretty lucky with that. Again, just the same thing about luck, but it's just the people around you kind of believing in you is really what it was for me. But no, I never at any point, I never at any point thought about it, which is very interesting because I'm definitely a procrastinator. I'm definitely one of those people where it's like, I'm going to push it up to the buzzer and then get it done very quickly. I do that with most of my content. If anybody watches my main YouTube channel, then they'd probably know. It's like, hey, I recorded this today, so I'm running on a tight schedule here. But no, it's definitely not, actually.
That's crazy. I mean, I maybe just different personalities. I would have been thinking about that time limit like every single day. Like, I do today, I've got to do something because it's going to run out real quick. Probably good, better that way, that you felt a bit more comfortable. You didn't even feel that pressure. I suppose being young helps.
Yeah, young, dumb, and lucky are three things that fit me back then, I guess.
You look, going back on the streaming thing, I'm assuming that this was on YouTube that you were streaming at the time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There was, switching to Twitch videos on your channel where you insisted that Twitch was probably the better way for you at the time for your live streams, because it was kind of killing your YouTube videos at the time through the retention. Do you think, I think that's changed now. Would you say that's correct? The YouTube has sort of fixed its way of differentiating live streams from YouTube videos, because you've kind of gone back and forth between Twitch, YouTube for streaming quite a few times.
It's a little complicated. So back then they had YouTube Gaming, and YouTube Gaming was good. That's the exact reason Spiros blew up. If you don't know, is Spiros was front page YouTube Gaming, Call of Duty Blackout every single day. That is the exact way that he blew up. And then he had a solid audience, right? So I jumped in to live streaming directly after YouTube Gaming. So I would get like 50 viewers and then 200 viewers depending on like what day it was or whatever. But people like Spiros and others in his category that were kind of a lot bigger, they would always hold that top spot. But the issue is without YouTube Gaming, which literally died, they killed it. And that's why it went from a little like red heart to a gray heart. So at that time, it was okay, but it just slowly hurt your videos more and more, like you were saying. And so the longer that I did it, the more I realized like, hey, my content's getting worse and worse and worse. And yes, technically they have split the algorithms. I think because of shorts and people like Courage JD and stuff like that coming over to the platform, like having contracts with YouTube, they had to communicate like this is a big issue. And that's why they started splitting off their channels. And I still think technically it is better for you to split off your channel, but I think it's much better now. You just have to be very aware of how the algorithm treats your channel, who gets recommended your content whenever it comes to like, basically when you make a video, even if you turn off notifications, it will send it to your subscribers. If your subscribers are subscribed to you for shorts, they will not click it. If your subscribers are subscribed to you for live streams, they will not click it. And it's vice versa throughout the whole thing. So you have to be aware, like, how you've built your audience, the way that you connect with your audience. And the reason that my channel is doing so well right now is that I had an audience already that wanted to see long form content from me. So I'm producing hour-long videos right now. And even though I'm not streaming, people are coming in and watching a whole hour-long video. Like my average retention is like 24 minutes if my video is an hour long, which is absurd, to be quite honest.
Quick interruption before we continue with the conversation. Because for the very first time in Unfiltered history, I'd like to take a second to thank the sponsor of this episode, Controller Mods AU. With a focus on esports and serious gamers, they are the brand I recommend for your custom controller needs. Even as a somewhat casual gamer myself, Controller Mods AU controllers have stood up the best out of all the brands that I've tried before. There's so many features that you can add to your controller that will improve you as a gamer, like custom designs, modifications, color schemes, Hall effect sticks, and my favorite, digital triggers. They also look extremely cool. The team at Controller Mods AU have over 10 years experience, are extremely passionate, and for me, genuinely nice people to deal with. They also ship internationally and offer a 12-month warranty with a commitment to quality and durability. So to level up, don't forget to use discount code UNFILTERED at checkout for your next Controller Mods AU controller.
But I think to answer your question, have they fixed it? They have, but everyone has to be aware of the kind of audience that they've built. And if they're not aware of the kind of audience they've built and the way that they retained their viewers in the past or the subscriber base, like what they want to watch, then live streaming still might be bad for them on that channel. And they can do the different content that they're trying to do on Twitch or Kick or whatever platform they decide to stream to.
Yeah, it's kind of that thing where a few creators will build an audience build a subscriber base through the short form content. The shorts will blow up, but maybe they haven't honed in their skills for long form, or the people who watch them for shorts don't care for, videos that go for 10 plus minutes. And it's kind of like knowing what your audience wants. Like you said, that's probably the best way of saying it. But we're going back to Warzone, because Warzone dropped in 2009, 2020, and same like Blackout, it was just all of a sudden things just explode. Like you probably weren't doing a lot of things differently in your videos. You kind of had the same, you would react to other players, react to, spectating, you would play with randoms, you would do, how to get better and tips and things like that. So what you were doing, the format was the same. You might have been improving, but the audience for Warzone just exploded and things took off, right?
Yeah. Warzone was kind of interesting because that was the exact, like when I knew Warzone was coming, I decided to switch to Twitch. So I was like, all right, I'm spending a lot of time streaming and it's mentally terrible for me. That's a very long conversation about like Blackout and how that community, like outside of my audience, was very niche-esque, basically.
We could talk about that because
people outside
I know a lot of the Blackout community still watch Blackout. They don't want to go to Warzone.
Yeah. It's very interesting. We'll wrap back around to it, but basically what happened with Warzone is I started streaming on Twitch, so I was no longer posting those like streams to my YouTube. So immediately I don't have to worry about sharing that audience. And then I just decided to try different things and find what worked. So I started out, if you look, I think my first like Warzone video was a funny moments video. Well, aside from my first win, but it was funny moments. And then I tried loadout videos. And then I tried, what was it? I mean, spectating came after, but I think it went straight into tips. And tips is always something that I was just pretty good at because I just talk out loud while I'm playing. I think that's basically the number one rule is if you're a content creator that does like gaming videos, just talk the whole time. People get annoyed by it, but those people don't matter. Like they're not there for you anyway, and your content's about you at the end of the day. So just talk out loud everything that you're doing, and if you can't do that, get better at it. That's basically what it comes down to. If you can't think and speak at the same time, it's one of those things that you just have to get better at, because you just provide so much extra value. So I would try these different videos, and I got to tips, and I made a video on it, and then I moved on to the next video. And I started going back through my analytics, and I saw that the tips video was like, it went from like this to straight up. And I was like, what the hell is going on? And at the time, I had no content from Blackout that was doing as well as that video. Nothing even close. And so I was like, okay, so maybe I try this again. So I made another tip video, and another tip video, and another tip video. And my audience was slowly gaining. And I think this is the reason that I have such a hardcore audience now, is that they appreciate the value that I was providing to them. So I kept doing that over and over. And then shout out to Sean P. I saw one of his videos where he spectated a cheater, and I saw that it did pretty well. And I was like, well, cool. And then I died to a cheater, and I was like, oh, well, I'll take the opportunity. Maybe this does well for me too. So I do that. And his video ended up at like 400,000 views. My video also ended up at like 400,000 views. And I was like, holy crap, this is the cheat code. I just got to find more cheaters. And I didn't run into any more cheaters. So that was kind of ironic. Though. Yeah. But I got a comment on my video, and somebody was like, hey, you should just spectate a random player and see how they play. So I did that one time, and then I did it again, and I did it again, because the videos just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I had like basically a bunch of different series that I had started. And I remember basically way back in Blackout, I was doing random duos. I'd pretend to be a noob, and then I'd be like, all right, I'm just kidding, bro. Let me get you a win. So I started a random duos. I started spectating. I had the tip videos, and those 3 videos were just garnering such a massive subscriber base over and over and over that they just keep stacking, and they were all evergreen at the time. No one else was doing spectating at all. Like, they would spectate a cheater, but there was no spectating randoms. The next person to do spectating randoms was JGod, and then Marley 13, and then Tim the Tatman. And Tim the Tatman killed the category. Yeah, he made a spectating video every day. Every one of them got 1 million views, and he killed it. Everybody was like, all right, we get it. You're done. You're done. No more spectator. I was like, all right, my bad. I'll just go back to random duos and the other things I got. But yeah, it was basically just a bunch of different things stacking on top of each other to build a larger audience. And I definitely had videos like loadouts that were just filler, but for the most part, the goal was just to post a video every single day and try and provide as much value as possible. And I think that a lot of people go into it with, how much value can I get from my audience, right? And that's kind of the streamer mindset, which is why I don't like streaming anymore. But I tried to do it the exact opposite, which is, how much value can I give? And if they want to give it back, I'll take a subscription. Like, that was kind of how my brain worked. But it also blew up my Twitch, which ended up making me a lot more money. So I don't know. It's all a bunch of dominoes, basically.
We'll take it. I mean, yeah, your live streams, I mean, I got your Twitch tracker up, and it was, at the start of Warzone, very respectable, a couple hundred viewers, but then all of a sudden would take off. You're almost, dude, you were, end of 2020, it was hundreds and hundreds of viewers. And I remember coming into live streams for the first time around that time too, because, people were talking about the hype. You got to come follow me on Twitch, whatever. And yeah, dude, so what was that time like for you? Like you said, you didn't feel like live streaming was really your most comfortable thing. Does it feel real having an audience of like 700 people watching you spectate someone or splat or do whatever it is you're doing at the time?
It's overwhelming, honestly. I prefer smaller audience that I can connect with and communicate with, because at some point you hit this barrier where unless you're like really connecting with people like one-on-one in person, it just feels, like you said, not real, because there's just so many people just spouting things at you. My issue is I hate being lied about. This is like my biggest pet peeve. I hate when people just bold-faced lie about me, and I try my best to communicate like how something can be misconstrued or whatever. And that's a lot of my content now, is just being as bold-faced, like honest as I can. Like, there is, like, I try to say it nicely, but there's nothing more than just honesty that I have for people now, because I care so much about the truth. But my issue with streaming was this, the instant interaction with people that would bring in negativity made that pretty difficult. And then I would immediately react to it, which was my bad. So I liked it better when it was smaller core audience. Is as much as a lot of my audience liked when there was a lot of people in there, so it felt like a party and stuff like that. And I loved certain moments of it. Don't get me wrong. There were exciting moments where we were able to like buy my Twitch mod a PC, and we were able to donate thousands of dollars to other streamers and stuff like that. Those were exciting moments that came directly from live streaming. But aside from those moments, it was just very difficult because you have a hard time connecting with your core audience because they all get tired of being lost in the sea of comments.
Yeah.
And that's the big partner push thing that I hate so much too, is like everybody's like, let's get more people in here. And then the second there's more people, they're like, I don't actually like this. I'm moving to the next streamer. And I'm like, all right, well, I gave it my best. I'll move on. I'll just give it up.
Yeah. You were very open about your issues as a streamer / creator. I mean, you talked about the Twitch scamming you into a partnership essentially with not being able to get out of it as smoothly as you wanted to. And then
they changed everything.
And then they changed it.
Crazy.
Yeah, because you couldn't multi-stream.
By the time they finally told me that I could be done with my contract, they were like, actually, you know what? You can stream anywhere you want. And I was like, man, come on. Y'all just playing with my emotions here.
Could have told me that like 6 months ago. And you have been very honest with having to defend yourself, like the accusations and stuff that happen. I mean, which comes you don't even have to be exceptionally skilled at the game. You just have to have a bit of a following and people will jump on and leech off that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a very interesting world where we've all just gotten to the point where negativity brings in more viewership. So the more that you can manipulate people into believing something that is a lie, and the more that it gives them a reason to be a victim, the easier it is for you to monetize on that, which is why you see people like spamming stuff on Twitter underneath posts that are like super cute. And then it's like, look at this person that just died. And you're like, whoa, I'm not here for this. Like, that's not, I just saw a cool cat and I wanted to read the comments from people. But yeah, so there's a lot of that. So it sucks, but at the same time, it's very rewarding when you finally change somebody's opinion of you. Like I don't know. There's just something about it. It feels very good to finally pull that off. They were like, you know what? I watched this video saying that you were a cheater and you explaining this. Maybe you're not cheating. I'm like, yeah, dude, you're right. Maybe I'm not.
Sometimes using your brain is harder for some people than it is for others. But what would you think, looking back on your career, so to speak, so far, and you mentioned luck, but let's pretend it's not luck. What are some of the things that you think you did worked well, and what are some of the things that you think didn't work well that you would not do again?
Are we talking about like video ideas, the way that I spend my time?
We'll talk about video ideas.
So video ideas, stop making loadout videos. that is the biggest waste of time for 90% of people, because there's always a billion people doing that. So you have to find something that will allow you to bring out your personality, and that's just not one of those things, because most people are like locked in. They want to get like a ton of different like eliminations and look really cool in front of their audience. So it's basically a big fat waste of time. So I mean, immediately that I used to make Minecraft videos. At some point, I actually had one of the largest Minecraft Pixelmon channels that there were, at least viewership wise. Every video would get 100,000 views. That is actually this is crazy Expel lore basically no one knows about. But my channel at one point had no Call of Duty videos on it. I took all of them down and I started making Minecraft Pixelmon, which was like a Pokemon mod. So I did that. Turns out making videos for an audience of 12-year-olds doesn't do well for you, even if you get 100,000 views per video. I would make like $15. I was like, this is absurd. Doesn't help that I also didn't have mid-rolls on in the video.
Maybe.
Yeah, that one's on me. But being aware of your audience makes a big difference. So I try to now, whenever we're coming up with video ideas, to be very aware of where the video idea is going to push and the way that the title is going to work. Because of the mistakes that I've made in the past, I know that if you put like "I quit" in a title, instantly you're losing 50 subs. Everybody's tired of the clickbait and stuff like that. So I've tried to steer clear of things like that, and we try and be a little bit more honest while still I don't know if you know the definition of clickbait, but it's literally anything on the internet with the sole purpose of having someone click it. It's everything.
It is
everything on the internet is clickbait. Not a single thing is not, because everybody wants their stuff clicked unless they're trying to hide it.
It's the degree of clickbait. You know?
Yeah. So it's always so funny whenever you make a video, you're like, I feel like maybe this is going to go a specific way and it's going to pull a specific audience. And then it does. And you're like, yep, I messed that one up. So I try and be more aware of the way I title my videos. Obviously, a lot of people don't have that ability because you have to clickbait to some degree whenever you're starting. And that's kind of why I did what I did. But if I could like change that, I would, and try and just make better ideas. But when it comes to basically just the worst things, it really is just pulling direct ideas and not twisting. Like I think Ludwig calls it the yoink and twist, where you take an idea and you don't change it. So you're just like, oh, you're this guy now. You're copying this dude. So doing stuff like that and not being aware of the audience that you're going to pull from it is probably where I would say is the worst. But other mistakes, I mean, I've made a billion mistakes. That's the whole thing, is just making every mistake that you possibly can, trying everything that you can, figuring out, learning the best ways to do it. But I don't even know if there's any that would lead me to here specifically. I mean, it's just a billion different mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, it's all learning too.
Yeah,
and I'm sure even just the way that you work now is a lot different to the way you worked when you first started. So, well, I mean, in an ideal productive day for you, where you're not procrastinating or whatever it is, what will your typical day look like? So
I wake up, usually it's relatively early, and my fiance and I will go to Orange Theory to work out. And then after working out, obviously the whole routine, but after all that, I'll make the bed, which I think is one of the most important things that you can possibly do. Make your bed, make sure all your rooms are cleaned up, because if it's not clean, it's going to be mental clutter as well. I'll make my coffee. I will make a Brooke coffee. I'll make sure I get every single thing in my routine, like medicines and stuff like that, done. And then, which usually ends up being like 9:15, I'll end up in my office. Whenever I sit down in my office, I hop into a call with my my graphics designer, who basically does a lot more than graphics design, but we're going to call him my graphics designer. I'll hop in a call with him. We'll figure out like what the plan is for the day, which we actually have a content plan. I wish I could show this to you, but it has like all my ideas on it. We have a content plan that I've like built out for my main channel and my second channel, Expel Plus. So every single week we'll have like different content ideas and just slam them into different days. So we're aware of what we're doing the next day, every single day. There's a plan already made up, and it's massively helpful to have that. So I'll sit down, we'll figure out what we're doing for the day. If I've not made my Expel Plus video, which is a loadout video, whole other channel just for loadouts, so that I didn't have to worry about that and I can just capitalize on building an audience. But they're mostly there for the gameplay anyway, having nothing to do with the loadout, which is kind of funny. I don't even know who uses the loadouts, but I'll make a video on that, which is just hopping in, getting 2 gameplays and slamming that in editing software, throw that up. And then I move on to the main channel and so on and so forth. But I'll usually try and get ahead basically a few days. And then whenever I'm finally done working, it usually ends up being like 7 o'clock. Oops, sorry. Usually ends up being like 7 o'clock when I'm finally done working, because main channel videos take quite a long time. I'll go downstairs, make dinner, because I try and meal prep ahead for Brooke. I'll go downstairs, make dinner for her. We'll sit, watch something on TV or whatever. So that's basically my whole day.
How much of your time do you think, now that you've done this for a while, I mean, me personally, I'm starting to learn a lot more about scripting and how much goes into thinking about what you're actually saying for videos. How much time have you dedicated to scripting your videos, like changing, the way you normally say something to the way it would actually work better for you in a YouTube intro, for example?
Well, it's funny, we kind of had this discussion before we hopped in, but I used to be a little bit more hardcore about it. Whenever, like I mentioned earlier, I try and go for like pure honesty, right? So whenever I used to make videos, I'd be like, welcome to Warzone Boot Camp and stuff like that. Like I do like these crazy, like hardcore intros, but the issue is my audience is built to connect with me, right? They're not built to connect with some kind of high production video. They're not there for that. So you kind of have to split that and put that into a different category. So I am going to build out a whole other channel just for that kind of content. But whenever it comes to scripting out my intros, I mean, I have the Elgato prompter. So all I'll do is I'll hop in and I'll just, I don't know, my brain just works. I run it one try. I might change out like 3 words, maybe. But I just try and make something that's natural to the way that I speak and feels honest to what's going on in the video.
Okay.
And then I'll just slam some footage over it, basically. But whenever it comes to just like scripting intros specifically, I don't even spend a lot of time on it. I used to care so much, but I think it all depends on the kind of content that you're creating. If you have to hook somebody within that first second because the context is so important, then I would have spent a lot more time on it, making sure that every word mattered. But when it comes to just like my content, usually it's either challenges or random duos or I'm still doing the same old shit, honestly. But like making intros like that, I kind of just think about what happened because if it's something like a random duo, I have to record it after because I don't know.
Yeah, you don't know what happened.
What happened beforehand. Yeah, so I have to record that after, tell people like, hey, this is this. And I'll make sure that I try to be very positive about the people that I meet while I'm playing. So usually it's like, this guy was really good. Well, first of all, I'd be not making the video if he wasn't really good. So I try and be very nice about the person because I know a lot of people bring a lot of negativity into it. But then I have the videos like I did a challenge today that I will be releasing in a couple of hours, but I wrote it out beforehand. I don't think I have it on my thing anymore, but it was basically a no plate challenge. And I wrote that out and I took like 4 different shots at it and I'll just read it, rewrite it, read it, rewrite it. But I always make sure to say it out loud because otherwise you can't tell.
No, you can't tell.
Yeah. You have to say it, like just read it out loud. I think when I sit in a call sometimes with Axel, my graphics design guy, he will have to just sit there and listen to me say it over and over and over because I'm like, I need to make sure that this is right. But it's only those. Usually most of my videos I can just hit in one shot, but if it's something that I'm going to do in the moment, like literally I'm live recording, I'll have to rewrite it over and over before I dive in.
When Warzone dropped, like you said, Warzone, you were doing loadout videos, spectating, everything sort of like everything. I think the desire for Warzone content from the audience was just there. They were happy to just everything they could get. But as it goes on, people either click off, they get bored, they want to see more of your personality rather than, hey, what's the best gun to use? How do I, get better? How do you feel that's affected your channel and the way you go about things when Warzone is kind of in its lull? How do you think that affects you and your channel?
I think everything's kind of in the eye of the beholder, right? So if right now I'm actually doing better than I have for the last 2 years. Like I've had 2 months in a row that were my highest months in the last 2 years. And I think a lot of that just comes down to the kind of content that you're making. If everybody's pissed off about a game and it's not doing well, they won't play it. But that doesn't mean they're not going to watch it. But if you're making the same old crap content on a crap game, no one's going to care enough to watch it. So everybody's making these loadout videos and then whining and griping throughout the whole gameplay, and no one's interested in watching it. So a lot of these creators are getting lower and lower viewership. But for me, I was making very honest, very helpful, very informative content, and a lot of people are coming in and they're watching those videos more than they have before. We're like making sure that we're hitting our SEO. We're doing very good titles. We're doing multiple thumbnails per video. I mean, we're like working our ass off right now to ensure that we're still going up, even though everything else is going down. So yes, I mean, there was definitely a dip, to be very clear, I had a massive dip since Verdansk, right? A lot of that was mostly due to me burning out and me being in the same situation that a lot of these other guys are in, right? So there's currently creators that are making videos and it's literally just reposts. Like I see these guys and I'm like, God, I know that you're not having a good time, but good Lord, man, just repost, just give it up. Like at that point, you're literally just monetizing the hell out of your audience and they hate it with a passion. So when it comes to the dip, I mean, you just have to ride it out. You really do, because it's going to come back. And I know a lot of people keep saying, Warzone's dead, Warzone's dying, but it will come back, at least a little bit. And then you have to ride that up wave. But if you're still down here and you're going lower and lower, when that thing starts going up, you're going to be way lower than you were before and somebody's going to take over. That's the reason that we saw people like, I'm trying to think, oh God, I can't think, Slater Lovely Low, people like that, they blew up in Warzone 2. Sally's a dog literally went from like 300,000 subscribers getting 4K views per video to getting 100,000 views per video in Warzone 2, if not like 200 or 300,000 views per video. And all it came down to was just being charismatic, not giving a damn, and just doing your thing. So when people focus so much on the lows, it's like, if it doesn't fit your content, change your content. Get something that connects with your audience a little bit more. Change. But everybody's just a little scared of change. For me, ironically, I went back to the basics. You know, I went back from, I was making these crazy high production tip videos and stuff like that. And I had a conversation with a friend, ironically, the guy that basically managed Lovely Low and Slater. And he was like, dude, he does a bunch of very high retention based shorts and stuff for them, and they do very well. But for me, he was like, dude, I liked your videos because you were just raw. You would literally just put a whole ass gameplay, have an intro on it, and you were fun to watch. But because you're doing these retention focused edits, now it feels like I'm just watching some corporate bullshit. And I remember that conversation, and I tried to work with him, and we didn't like mesh well with the kind of content that we did. But after the fact, I just ended up taking his advice without really noticing I took his advice. And I swear this is what my fiance has been telling me for years. I'm so sorry. She's going to kick my ass for saying this out loud. But she's always like, I don't know why you're trying to get shorter videos. And I'm like, well, I mean, such is life. Because she streams too, and she used to make some videos on her stuff. But yeah, so I just switched out my stuff, and it worked out. I just went back to the basics and what people actually want, which right now is connection. They want to just have a real, honest conversation, because everybody's tired of the, so today I woke up and I did this, and they wake up and their hair's all brushed and they got all their makeup on. And I think everybody's tired of that. So it's just, when you make it to the point where everything's down, maybe go back to the basics, or maybe try something completely different. Like, there's no reason to take the lull and just absolutely hold steady and do nothing to do better. Like, you can ride it out, but also it's a great time to experiment and see if something else would work better for you, you know?
Yeah, I got to shout out a buddy of mine, Cpreds. He did the same sort of thing. We spoke as Warzone 2 was dropping, and then again after Warzone 2 dropped, and he was having his best time. The game sucked in Warzone 2 and everyone was dropping off, and he had one of his best years because he dedicated himself to getting better and making the most of, if these guys are going to let their content slip and not get views, I'll take them. And he's gotten better at everything he does. And now when the game sort of took off a bit more, when Modern Warfare 3 dropped, he was right in the best position to take advantage of it. So you can make the most of a bad situation, just improving, just looking at what you can do better. Because, I mean, as I'm sure you'll say, nobody's perfect in what they do. You can always improve.
Yeah, absolutely. Frankly, I wish I wasn't streaming and I was only doing content during Warzone 2. But I was still stuck in that mindset anyway, where everything needed to be higher and higher production and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's just, it's been a real pleasure to see some of these guys that just didn't give a damn. And they were like, you know what? I'm going to take the opportunity. Like, especially like someone like Cpreds, who's just a great guy. That's just trying his ass off and trying to teach people and trying to like make fun of it. Like, not make fun of it, but like have fun with it.
Exactly.
It's just been so nice.
Yeah. And you mentioned Brooke. I mean, I follow Brooke as well. I've seen her streaming for a long time. You guys have done a lot of stuff together as well, both on her channels and your channels. You've done a lot of charity things as well. Tell us about how you guys organize that and the motivation between, because you guys have given a lot back to the community.
So Brooke, it's actually a lot. So I'll start with me actually, and then we'll go into Brooke. So the first like charity event that I did was with a friend in Blackout, and it was a St. Jude event, and they were doing an event and they asked me to come in, and my community came in and supported as well. Obviously, like I said, that community was very supportive back then. Like, they would just throw money at stuff. And so they helped raise like $3,000 to $4,000 towards the goal that they had. So that was my first experience with it. And then I also, I had a very negative experience back in Blackout, where a lot of content creators really just didn't like me because I made videos that were like killing this Twitch streamer. But it wasn't like I hopped in and was like, yeah, you're trash, get slammed or something like that. And it's not even like you see with like the Metaphor or the Blue X videos or, you know, these guys where it's just them like shooting bodies and stuff after they get the elimination and them showing the reaction. No, my videos never really showed reactions for the most part. It was actually just me hopping in and then I'd get the elimination and I'd be really excited about it. And then I'd always make sure to tell people like, go check them out. I was very kind in these videos because I was so excited because these guys were so freaking cool and I always loved watching them. But people did not like that back then. It was a big no-no because like I said, the Twitch community was, or not the Twitch community, the Blackout community was very toxic if you weren't their chosen streamer. So if you were TP or you were Spiros or you were Minor Hobo Joe or I'm trying to think of Simsy, like there were a lot of guys that had audience that were super hardcore, and it's nothing against them as people, but they had very hardcore audiences, and they would come over and they'd like drop hate to the point to where I privated all those videos and I made an announcement. I was like, hey, look, I get it. Y'all don't want to see this anymore. That's on me. It's my bad. I'm going to take the money that I made from it. I literally took a screenshot, showed everybody. This is how much each one of these videos made. I've added it up. It was right at literally $500, which is hilarious that it was a total of $500. And I took that money, and there was a guy in my my town. His name was Todd, and I don't even know if he's alive anymore, but he was a very kind guy. But from my understanding, he had some sort of mental disability. I'm going to call it that, but it was a mental health issue that kind of kept him out of living a normal life. So he worked with, like, he would live in houses for like HUD and stuff like that. He basically had help from the government, but he was such a nice guy. Anytime I saw him like walking up and down the road, because he couldn't drive legally, anytime I'd see him walking up and down the road, I'd always try to give him a ride to wherever he wanted to go. Usually it was like Walmart. And I like started thinking about it. I was like, I've got this $500. Like, what can I do with it? And I went and I went literally to Walmart to see if he was there. I kid you not. And he was there. So I got incredibly lucky, but I had taken this money and put it all into gift cards for him so that he could basically just eat for free for a couple of months. And I met him, and for 30 minutes, he tried to say no, and that he can't take it. It's my money. And I was like, look, that is not what this is about. You are an incredible guy. And I've seen the way that you impact the people that, you know, you have the opportunity to speak with. And like that moment, it just like something clicked in my heart. And I was like, God, this just, and if I would like think back about it too hard and like I had a whole conversation about what all he said, I would like literally be sitting here bawling my eyes out. But like that happening made me realize like I just want to help people. And that's, again, part of the reason that I kind of just provide value in every video that I give, is that I really genuinely think that life is just all about helping as much as you can and being super like positive toward everything. Don't get me wrong, I'm pretty negative on some things, but when it comes to like actually giving value, I believe that that's very important. So after that moment, I've had quite a few people in my life, and this is kind of the way that I moved into the chosen charity that I donate to. I've had quite a few people in my life that have struggled with mental health and committing suicide and stuff like that. So because of that, I mean, there was a guy in my life that like, that one messed me up. And I will say like, that is what happened. He did that. I just remember getting told that on the phone from my brother while I was working. And I was like kind of starstruck by it, that I didn't know what to do. I just like was just dumbfounded. Literally, I just stood there and I was like, okay. And then I got off the phone and I went back to work, and then just something hit. And I remember going outside and just sitting there like, oh God, just like bawling my eyes out on the curb at my job at a Pizza Hut. Like that's what I was doing. So I went in and I told the manager, I was like, hey, I got to go home. So ever since that moment, I knew. And my stepmother, she actually worked with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. So it was just an instant connection there.
Yeah.
So that's how I got into it. And I always just wanted to try and support. We've actually now raised $105,000 in total for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention altogether, which was huge. We're not actually going to be able to do, kind of sucks that we're having a conversation now, but we're not going to be able to do a charity fundraiser this year, but we're hoping that immediately we'll go back into it next year. Because we have just so much going on and there's no way that we can keep up with it, and we want to give it the energy it deserves. But she actually had she worked at a place. I'm not trying to dox anybody, but she worked at a place.
She worked somewhere.
Yeah, she worked somewhere nearby where I live right now. When she was basically in high school, getting out of high school, going into college, stuff like that, she worked at a place and she met this incredible couple there. And the lady that she met, like the woman in the couple, just such a hard ass, like in a good way, just like so badass, such an incredible woman. And it like, if you ever get a chance to like see any of the stuff that happens during those streams, I don't know if they're still on YouTube. They should still be on my YouTube channel. But if you ever get an opportunity to go look, she kind of explains it. We show like pictures of this woman. They're like climbing mountains and shit. And she got diagnosed with cancer, and then it was a specific form of cancer called I actually can't even, I don't know the exact name, but basically it was a certain form of leukemia / lymphoma, stuff like that. And so she ended up passing away sometime down the road, but up until her last day, she was going balls to the wall, like climbing and going hard and heavy and stuff like that. So Brooke connected a lot with that because obviously she had someone in her life pass away from leukemia. So like we both had kind of getting hit in the face with it, basically is what happened. And because of that, it kind of just ended up being one of those things where, all right, we tried to do it both in 1 year. Very difficult, by the way. So she would do it during July and I would do it during August, but it just became so difficult to be like, hey, do you guys think you could donate to this and this year? So we tried to be like, all right, you have one time during the year that you need to spend money, which is why I turn down every charity whenever they reach out to me and say, hey, will you do a charity stream? Is because I want to make sure that whatever we do, we go 100%. We don't ask people for anything throughout the rest of the year. And so it switched to, she does it 1 year, I do it 1 year. She does it 1 year, I do it 1 year. And so I think this year was supposed to be my year. And so we're going to be moving mine to next year. That was a very long explanation. I'm sorry, but it was a lot. It is just a lot of different details that get you there.
Yeah, man. No, you took me back with talking about your friend who is no longer with us. Yeah, dude. We lost a community member as well a few years ago from a few of the streams we used to hang out in, and I'd never met the dude. He was from the US, and the loss that you can feel from somebody you've never met it's crazy how intense it can feel. I mean, I remember the day waking up and seeing a message about it and just showing my wife and being upset and just being upset for a long time about it. It's crazy how it hits, and it's great that you can do something to give back, because you know that kind of stuff can affect everybody at one point in their life, and if not them, it's somebody they know.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's one of those things, man. It just, you never know until it happens. Like, you think it's not going to happen to you, which obviously, you know, it's not like happening to you, but the way that you build a connection with someone, even if you haven't ever met them, is absurd. I mean, it's just human connection, dude.
Yeah. But yeah, let's circle back. Let's do something else a bit fun. What advice would you give to? What advice do you see given to creators that you think is just terrible? Like it happens all the time.
Don't give up, because it's just if it really does. I know, I get a lot of people. I've talked about this multiple times, but I think this is similar to me hitting at the age of 21, right? There is a certain amount of time that you should put into whatever you're going to do. And you have to decide what that amount of time is. You have to be strict about it. And you have to just say, all right, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I need to move on. I need to not waste my life doing this. I got very lucky that mine worked out the way that it worked out. And I know a lot of other people aren't going to get that lucky, but a lot of my working out, while still luck, was me choosing to hit everything that I needed to hit, which was I recommend like my streams during my videos, and I make sure that I produce the videos that I need to produce, and I'm staying on the ball all the time, and I'm not just streaming 24 hours a day. And a lot of creators, what they'll do is they'll just waste their time, and they're thinking that, you know, if I just stream every day, all day, then I'll be good. But you can't get discovered. You need to make content on other platforms. You need to constantly be producing something that is going to gain attention for your live streams if you're going to live streams. But at some point, you do need to decide, if this is not working, should I give it up and focus more on the relationships that I have with my life and just do something different? You can always do it as a hobby at the end of the day, but focusing purely on using it for monetary compensation is not necessarily the greatest thing that you should do.
It's a hard step to make. There's not a lot of people who can make that step. And yeah, I think you got misinterpreted on Twitter, because I saw that tweet about giving up. Maybe it's best to give up, but it's sort of like not if you want to do this for fun. I mean, we're talking about people who are trying to, like, they're in debt, they're losing money, they can't make anything out of it. Just don't give up might not be the best advice.
I mean, I did content creation for 10 years before I went full time. And to be fair, I realistically had no plan B. Like, this is a very hypocritical thing for me to say, but looking at the world that we have now, where it's 10 billion times easier to make money on this stuff than it was whenever I was trying to do it. If you can't do it, it's not for you. It is literally that simple. If you cannot make a living wage on content creation in 2025, when there is a billion resources teaching you how to do it step by step, 100% for free on YouTube, that you could just do in your pastime, if you can't do it after that, it might not be for you. Like, that is really what it comes down to. Because I mean, I was stubborn as hell. Like, I was gonna make this work, and coming out of high school, I literally didn't even apply to a college whenever it was my junior and senior year. They were like, all right, let's make sure to apply to colleges. And they sat us down. I closed my laptop and just sat there, because I knew, I was like, I'm going to do this. Like, I was so dead set on making it work. And then I almost quit right before. You know what? Maybe you should gamble. Wait, no, wait. Sorry, different meme. No, but I was going to give up. Just like pretty much anybody else. The only reason that I tried again was because my dad, the dude that actually gave me the, ultimatum, he recommended I try something. I tried it and it worked out. So I'm very thankful that he said, hey, you should play Blackout.
Good shout, Dad. Thank you.
Yeah, you should still definitely just give up at some point. Do it in your pastime, but don't focus solely on it, is what I would say. Focus on your relationships. Don't lose out on the time that you have with the people that you have in your life, because you're going to die one day. Which is a little deep, but that's the truth of it.
So you think it's easier to make it as a creator now than it was when you started?
Infinitely. It's crazy. I had no resources telling me how to be a creator 10 years ago. No one was explaining, this is how I got here, this is how I did this. Instead, it was like, this is how much I'm making as a creator. And I'm like, all right, well, how do I do it? What do I do? How do I get there? So no one's teaching you how to do these things back in like 2015, 2014. I mean, there was people talking about money, but that's it. So now everybody wants to be a creator. The number one thing that people that kids write is they want to be a YouTuber, they want to be an influencer, whatever, whenever people ask them for jobs. And I get it. But a lot of it comes with like what they see. So you'll see somebody that's like making millions of dollars being an influencer. And you're like, I want to do that. Yeah, well,
everyone does, for sure.
Yeah, a little. Everybody wants that, I'm sure. But I would definitely say, with all the resources, I mean, Harris Heller, off rip, just Harris Heller, Alpha Gaming. Like, watch his stuff on streaming. He's a little behind now. I would not watch his new stuff because I think the streaming world's a little bit different. Nothing against him. It's just like, I think he doesn't understand streaming as much because he focused on other projects, but he has really great videos on how to grow your viewer base by creating content on other platforms. I mean, there's a lot of channels like that. I would never watch a video titled How to Grow a Twitch Stream, because usually they're like, you should use channel points on your page. And I'm like, people have to come in and watch it first. So channel points don't matter. But I think there's a lot of like how to grow content outside of it, how to edit, how to create a video that's going to retain viewership. There's a billion different resources just like that. And you don't have to pay for some masterclass. You just look it up. You Google it. You hey Siri, like one of those, like that's all you have to do these days. Oh, I've woken up Google. Never mind.
Siri, go back to sleep, Siri.
It's just staring at me. Okay. All right. It's asleep. Sorry.
That's all right.
But yeah, so one of those things where you don't need as much work now, which is kind of goofy because it's super saturated, but it's nowhere near as much learning because it's just there.
There is that balance. There is a lot more people trying to break in, but there is a lot more avenues to get there. So there is still the filter system. You still need to be good at it. You still need to be great at it. But yeah, there is a lot more resources. Even just when TikTok came into practice, people were just like, you got to use this, and people were slow to it, and the people who got on it quick were able to take advantage. So I'm sure there's going to be something new coming this year, next year, something else that's going to be an opportunity for people to take advantage of.
Yeah, there's always another new app that blows somebody up. So if you hop on it early, maybe it helps, or maybe you die quick in the algorithm if you hop on it too early because you just weren't that good.
Speaking of apps, I know you've got a love-hate relationship with Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. But do you think there's a social media platform which is essential to have? Like there's one you shouldn't not have at this point in 2025?
You absolutely need YouTube, plain and simple. It's not even a question. Like it's an all-in-one platform. You don't need Facebook, but YouTube definitely. Sorry, I know that wasn't a question, but good God, Facebook is not one. Don't even go on it. It's a scam.
Facebook, very like there's one side like you need to still post on Facebook, and there's another side like Facebook is like terrible. There's nothing on there for anybody of value.
It's another, like, wrapping it way back around. It's about the audience you're building on that platform. The audience does absolutely nothing for you. All incredibly hateful. All of them. The number of times I've seen a mother of three, like Bible quote in her bio, like pictures of her kids as her profile picture, dropping slurs in my comment section. And I'm like,
live life, love.
What does John 3:16 actually say? What does it actually say? Did I get it wrong all these years? Like, lady, calm down. Oh my God, is this necessary? Oh yeah, but no, I thought YouTube's good. YouTube's good. I feel like you've got shorts, so you've got short form, you've got long form. They're adding in a new like community post so that you can write stuff up and connect with your communities there. Like there's no way around YouTube. If you get banned from YouTube, obviously you go to like Rumble or whatever, but YouTube is the place to be.
The funny thing that you said that about Facebook, I remember having this conversation. It's not even like it's private profiles. It's people with their kids in their profile picture. They've got families. It's a real person. You can see where they work, and they're typing the wildest stuff on there sometimes.
They're checking in when they get home. They do a little check-in, and I can see their home address, and I'm like,
Grandma,
Rebecca,
please. Yeah.
What are you doing? Oh my God. You got to assume it's their kids, but realistically, it's the mom. It's the mom for some reason. Oh, they're crazy.
The kids don't do that. It's the parents. It's always the parents.
Yeah. Dude, I don't know. Sometimes I think it's a 14-year-old with the way they type, and then I just realize they're completely illiterate, which makes sense.
I do have some comment reaction to get from you later that we'll do on a bonus video. But yeah, we'll circle back to some of the comments.
Okay.
But yeah, no, look, dude, this was a pleasure. I love talking to you about this stuff. This was awesome, very insightful, and I love hearing your story from you. Do you have anything that you want to add to anybody who's still listening at this point or watching at this point?
Sorry, my first thought was to wrap back around and be like, give up. But
give up. Don't even do it, guys.
I don't know. I think it's what I would say whenever it comes to stuff like that is just try and be a positive influence on the world, which is super corny. But the value that you gain back from giving value to others is always so much larger, even if it takes 10 years to do it. Always give as much as you can. And it's exhausting for a very long time, but at some point it does wrap around. So be selfishly unselfish, if that makes sense. Just give as much value until it one day shows back up, because I promise it will. So just be good. I don't. I'm sorry. That's what I got.
That's
I don't
it.
know.
No, that's cool. Please be sure to leave a like, comment below, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This really helps out the channel and is totally free. And if you'd like to support the podcast further in exchange for extra videos, our members-only exclusive content can be found on Patreon and will be linked in the description below.